Hi, friends. If you've been watching the news, then you no doubt have heard about the murder of an unarmed black man named George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was murdered by a police officer that was kneeling on his neck so hard that George couldn't breathe. And even though he was saying, "I can't breathe, you're hurting me," the officers didn't stop. And the part I want to talk about here is that all of the people that were watching did nothing. One recorded the incident and published it online, I think, which is one of the reasons it's gotten so much attention, and all the officers involved were subsequently fired. But what obligation, if any, do we as individual citizens have to step up in moments like this? Now, I'm not saying what I would have done. I can't speculate. I wasn't there. But I'm just reflecting on, what if I was there? Would I have had the courage to stand up and approach the officers and say, "Don't you hear him? He's saying he can't breathe. Can't you see that he's cooperating with you? Please let your knee up off his neck." Could somebody have called the 911 dispatcher and say, "I want to tell you what's happening here"? Have somebody in authority call these guys off. Would you have gone in there and physically got involved and trying to make the officers stop and, putting your own body in harm's way? I don't know what the answer is. But one thing that I suspect is that fear and anger ruled not only this moment, but the subsequent response of citizens who began rioting and destroying police vehicles. It's fear and anger on both sides. I suspect the officer was either a very poor individual who liked to bully unarmed citizens, or he was caught up with an adrenaline rush that interfered with his ability to use sound judgment. And George Floyd paid the price of that. We don't know, because we weren't in his shoes. So one thing I'm wondering is, what if we as individuals, once all the anger and the fear has cleared, we're able to get connected to the compassion within you, the compassion that tells you that not only I suffer in this world, but people suffer. This police officer suffers. The fear he has to deal with all day long, wondering whether the next suspect is going to kill him. Who knows what's informing his thinking? But if we can have some degree of compassion for him and realize that he was suffering, doesn't justify one single thing he did. We see how George suffered so horribly, and the community he's in, African Americans, and how they all suffer, time and time again, the way George just did. What can we as individuals do something to change the systems of oppression in this society that we all benefit from? White privilege, there's so many words for it, but they're all true. We walk around on a high horse that was created by our ancestors, and a lot of racist and separatist and prejudiced beliefs. But we haven't done enough to dismantle that system. Are we prepared to do that? Because when we look at the people that are suffering at the hands of that system, do we have compassion for them? Can we in any way put ourselves in their shoes? Not completely, we won't know what it's like to be them. But can we put ourselves in their shoes as human beings and see how much they are just as deserving of dignity, respect, love that we cherish? So that when we see people being treated the way George was, we don't just see another fellow citizen. We sure as hell don't see the skin color. We see ourselves. We see ourselves being abused. We see ourselves being victimized by authority figures. Because the bottom line is, we are not disconnected. We are disconnected in form only. But our spirits are the same, of the same source, the same river, where you can't separate one drop from another. That's what I'm hoping we can begin to do with our fellow human beings. See them first with compassion instead of fear or anger. Extend some love to them the way you need to be loving yourself, so that when they suffer, you realize if you know how to stop the suffering you have here, and if everybody is you, well, you want to make sure the suffering in all of its forms is taken care of within your ability. Because you can't save everybody, but in the moments where you can take action, where a fellow citizen is being victimized, would you stand up? Would you stand up from a place of love, not from fear or anger? I have some ideas on how I might do that, but again, I was never in that situation. But I want to encourage everybody to reflect upon this very important question. What will I do in a situation where I see a fellow citizen being victimized the way George Floyd was in Minneapolis? What am I prepared to do, regardless of what it costs? Because by doing nothing, the systems that caused the problem remain in place. But if I, and hopefully fellow citizens, do something, then we can create a ripple that shifts or destroys this oppressive system that leads to the killing of unarmed citizens at the hands of police officers. So that's just my thinking on this. I hope that I haven't rambled too much and actually said something of value. If so, please leave a comment below. Let's keep this conversation going because we must. And until next time, remember, you are good enough, and so is everybody. No matter what they're going through, underneath, they're still a human being. Please find a way to put yourself in their shoes and extend more love and compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. Thanks for being you.